Welcome to What Do You Want to Do, the show that will hopefully help you figure out what you want to do in life or reconnect you to what you love doing. Each show has a guest who is doing what they want to do, whether it's in their career or in addition to their regular job. Most importantly, we want to help you realize that no matter your age, you too can do what you want to do if you have the will to do it. Now here's your host, Leonard Kaplan.
So you're what I call a techie in all respects. You like technical things, but you also are an artist at the same time. I would venture to say, having observed you work. Did you grow up fixing things or tinkering with things? How did you settle on what is your life's passion?
That's really funny because I never really thought about that. I don't know. I didn't really mess. I messed with some things. Like when I was little, I had these connects where, you could, it was a tower connect. Like you're supposed to make a tower, but I looked at it and I'm like, I never wanted to make a tower. So I made a car that my little sister could sit in and it would move.
That's cool.
And I don't know. I think the tech comes from that creative spark, because if I have a creative need, there's a technology way, there's a tech way to do it. And you can't separate the two, no matter how someone wants to. You can't separate artistic creativity from a technique, or, you have to know the rules to break the rules. I say, and some people say that. And if you don't understand the not the technology, but the techniques of an art, it's not going to turn out well.
Two things that come to mind, because I teach, I define positions for students as best I can, and I'm going to.
You probably do a better job than I do.
Well, that's my job, is to do it. But you actually
you should, right?
You make it happen, So one of the biggest things, and I work in a vocational school, and this may have something to do with it. There are people with the basis for a talent like yours, but they lack the artistic know-how, and most of all, the artistic vision. They place all the importance of what they do on the mechanical machines, contraptions that they work with. And they don't seem to see the value in planning, in writing, in the artistic sense, And if you have any ideas how I can reach those kind of kids, please give me.
I think everyone has their strengths, and there's nothing wrong with having a strength in a technical field. Because a lot of people, honestly, go do a wedding. It's technical. You're going to have a little spurt of, this tree looks cool. Guys walk through it. But once that moment's over and you got to make sure that video is captured, you got to be there on time and get that. Like, it's technical. You got to do it. So that there is a big need for that knowledge.
Sure.
And there's a lot of people, like I said, groups, if you're really good at the technical stuff, for one, it is important to be creative because we're storytellers. Like a lot of people don't think about it. We're storytellers, like, especially if you're going to be in big production movies. If you want to make a movie, what's a movie? It's a story. And you got to at least realize that it's 50-50. It's very important to realize that you don't have to be great at it. You just got to realize the importance. It's there because you can be technical, but what are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
Hey, I got a green light. Like, I got green lights here. Technically I know what to do with it. I understand what green does to frames and what it does to other colors and how it meshes. But what are you going to do with it? You don't got a project. You don't got this inspiration, the story. You don't got a job. You don't got anything. Like, it's balanced. But your technical need and skill is very important. You just need to find the people to mend with. So you bounce back and forth. So you can be like, so a creative person can come to you and be like, hey, I need, like, I think we were talking about earlier, I need a sad image or something.
Mhm.
Okay, well, what's a sad image? I mean, blues, blues used in sad, um, sad image. I don't know. It depends on the scene. They could have the scene that's creative. Someone's crying. Okay. Well, if I wanted to shoot someone crying with a blue light, soft blue light, how do you do that? I don't know. I don't know how to do a soft blue light. What's that? And then that's your technical skill that comes into play because they have this vision, and
Mhm.
you make it a reality, and they're so important. But it doesn't mean if you can't, like I said, if it doesn't mean if you can't do it, it's not bad. It's just realizing that there's an importance because the creativity is your, how would you say that? Your creativity is the outcome, but the technical, well, no. Your creativity is what gives you the motivation to use the
Right.
techniques.
The creativity is the impetus to
There
make
you go.
things happen. It gives you
I'm
the
so
reason
glad you
to do it.
understand what I'm trying to say.
Of course, and that's a hard thing to get across to people who only deal with the technical side sometimes.
But the thing is, if you have someone specifically in techniques and that understand that, and then you
Mhm.
can find someone um, that has that vision and you work well together, your creation is going to be phenomenal because
Mhm.
you are specifically, you have a specific knowledge and a depth. Because if you just know techniques
Yeah.
and that side of it, you're going to go deeper than someone like me. I kind of have both. I like to play with both, and you're probably going to go deeper in a certain understanding than I will because I have to juggle both these thought
Yeah.
processes. So it helps in the long run.
You have to have a good memory,
Oh my
and
gosh.
don't leave details out.
Ugh. Write things down.
Yeah. I
If you
mean,
know you don't remember things, use a technique.
it's true.
Yeah.
Let's name the people and the positions that they did on that shoot. What about Madison? Because I know you worked with Madison.
Madison was awesome. I was so happy to have Madison because I normally have to do all the lighting.
Hmm.
And it was so awesome to have someone in all respects, someone who has more experience on
Hmm.
sets with lighting and being a part of crews.
Hmm.
Because like I normally on the stuff that I've done in the past before then was kind of just doing everything
Hmm.
because I was surrounded by producers and actors. Um, but it was so nice to have someone that understood, hey, we need to set up lights, and he just could go right to it. He was really vital in making sure that we were on time. Actually, the LED lights that you were talking about earlier, he
Hmm.
set those up. We had the idea, and he's like, looks over there and just like, yeah, I got it. And I'm like, I can go over, and me and we were actually talking about setting up the camera, setting up some other lights and stuff. And he just had it ready, and it looked so good.
Hmm.
And it was like he helped out with lighting a lot, and he did a really really awesome job, like the lighting in the hallway
Yeah.
when she was walking, and he actually, so when it was the close up of her in the hallway with a bunch of the colors and stuff, it was dark but there was a lot of color still. He was actually in another with the door shut, in this window, just flashing light in there so we would have that live behind the scene
Hmm.
feel. um and it was great.
Now, let's see. So I'm going to go into my own position on that show. Now, Medusa kindly asked me to come along to be a producer on the show. And for a lot of the time, even though you guys, never gave me any reason to feel this way, I was thinking, what the heck am I going to do? I'm not important on the shoot. What am I going to do? So, and then finally, when it was time when we were doing the interviews, I was keeping an eye on her dialogue, and I slipped in some direction in there. I'm a grammar nerd, so I
Yeah.
can't help but do that. And I'm looking at Jason. I'm wondering, is he gonna like kick me off the shoot or whatever? But
No.
Jason was he says this is great because I never think of that stuff.
Yeah.
He was more into how it looked and all that, and so there was a place for me in that.
It was a group dynamic. It's another situation where a group dynamic makes the importance, because like none of us would have. I need to read more. I'm very sorry, students. I have to admit I need to read more. I have an explanation for that, but I'm not gonna get into it now. But no, I don't think of that. I'm a visual guy. I love visuals. I love that aspect. But there's people that will pick up on all those little nuances of how someone says. You're probably having one fun time hearing how I talk this whole time. So I'm a special brand of Missouri. So
you were fine. I did not notice anything.
But no, yeah, that's an important technical position. Knowing, having knowing how people are going to talk, and then look at them and be like, hey, you're saying this, but this is what you're meaning.
Sure.
And this is more powerful, and in that can connect with emotions that people are trying to bring across, that maybe their mouth is just not doing it the best. And and that's amazing. So important.
I mean, she's very, very talented, and there were specific things that she said, and she is a very quick study, and she just, like, we're talking about Medusa, guys. She got right into it, and she and I know each other so well, because we collaborated on like a children's book and some other scripts and stuff like that. And she didn't often need any coaching, but I would say that again or whatever, and the collaborative nature of this group is exemplary. It's just, I wish all crews could be like that crew.
Well, we were a small crew, and I'm used to, like I said, I'm used to a smaller crew. When you get into the bigger crews, everyone has their job, everyone has their hat. They want to make sure that their job is, done right. They don't want someone else, kind of scooting in. There's egos, and I'm not going to say I don't have an ego, because I do, but trying to give that up for the sake of the better of the project is a big skill.
Right.
Students. This is the one thing that I wish that I would have learned when I was younger, because the younger you are and this, the easier life is going to be. Just because you didn't make the idea doesn't mean you weren't a part of creating the idea. And it doesn't, that's not your worth. The team and what you bring to the team, it has so many facets. It's not about your idea. It's about what creates the story. And that's one of the reasons why I liked our group, is because we tried to push for the product to be the best, and you were talking about scripts earlier, and all of the scripts. Oh man, if you don't have a good script, you got nothing.
I agree.
You got nothing, and you got to give everyone their time and their due process. Because if you don't give it to them, they don't give it to you. It's a creative, it's so important, and that just atmosphere and trust and realization. To just find your people. That's really what I tell people, is find the people that you work well with, and feel comfortable being raw, being open, and knowing that they're not going to be like, oh, that's stupid. Why, it's important to have a good group. And that's, you saw firsthand what that type of group can do.
Yes.
And I had fun. It was very fun. Blessed.
A great 2 days that I'll always remember. And I got some pictures there. I think you saw them.
Pictures
behind the scenes, like stills.
Oh yeah, there's probably a lot of them that it's been a while, but yeah, it's so fun. I still need to get everyone back down here, just for fun though. We need to have a fun day, because there's things that I want everyone to do. and we just go hang out. I just like see when you just like the people you work with.
Yeah.
You just want to hang out with them.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
that's great.
Being a cinematographer is a very risky proposition, especially I think in a place like Springfield, Missouri, because it's not known as the Hollywood of the Midwest by any chance, by any stretch of the
No,
imagination. Not
there's
to
some
put it
pretty good
down,
people
it's a
out
nice
there.
place.
There's some. It's so interesting because I I'm a hard critic on myself, and yeah, we're not really well. Springfield's not really known for a lot of things, from what I know. The biggest thing I know it's known for is being like a vacuum. You know, you're born here, you stay here almost. The people that get out are lucky, but there's so much talent here, you know, and it's really awesome to see some of the people and what they're trying to do, and because yeah, I had a meeting with a guy once for a project, and I looked at him. I'm like, why aren't you doing your own thing? You got so much ability. You like some of the stuff that he was showing me. You know, the scene progressions, the communication. I'm like, bro, you got your own stuff here. You need to be doing stuff. You know, and we were just doing a little. What was it? It was a festival, a little festival, a film festival thing that goes around here. And I just was reaching out for different people to try to grow the team. And the next thing I know, he had his own team after I had that talk with him. He had his own team and he won the next year. I think it was. I think it was the next year. Like he was good. And sometimes, you know, he found his group and it was awesome. There's talent everywhere, I think. You know,
I agree with that. Now, my preface to the question that I'm leading up to, I hope it didn't sound like I was putting down Springfield, Missouri. That certainly was not my intention. But my question is, when you were a kid or when you were a late teen or maybe your early 20s, when you said to your family, I think I'm going to be a cinematographer, what was their reaction to that?
Oh gosh, I still don't think they really realized how much I like how much I like it. Well, there wasn't, but I think that's the thing though. There wasn't a time where I was like, I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing for, because I as much as I love visuals and I love lighting and I'm a visual person, there's so much more that I love about filmmaking, and a part of me eventually does want to change into more of a director role. But cinematography is just where my natural ability just landed when I started doing things. You know, I had an eye for understanding frames. You know, I have my own framing and techniques that I like. It still goes with a lot of the rules, but I'm very kind of specific on things that I like it's my art. So I don't know. I mean, they've watched a bunch of my stuff, and I don't think they're kind of like me. So they're very like they're very opinionated. So they probably still think that, oh, that's cool. I'm glad you're doing that. Nothing like you should quit. You know, you're terrible. Get out of there. But my family's definitely prove it type family. You know, if you're gonna do it, you got to do it and prove it type thing. Supportive, but like, you know, if they don't think you're doing something, they're gonna be like, yeah, you need to
So
do a little bit more.
My guess is your parents are younger than the World War II generation. They're probably more in my generation.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
People in my generation are a little bit less concerned with the fact that you might be starving or something like that, because my parents grew up in the Depression, you know, and people of the World War II generation would be more thinking along the lines, not that you can't do it, but they would be saying, how are you going to support a family? How are you going to support yourself?
Yeah.
How are you going to
Which
support
is important.
a child? Yeah.
It's important stuff, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of different ways you can, like, the technique, because we were talking about the people that are more technique and got the technical side more. You know, those type of people can probably find jobs a lot easier than people like me, because they have the techniques. Hey, do this, sure. You know, and more of a corporate position.
Mm-hmm.
go and shoot commercials because, they just kind of tell you what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But for people like me to, I want to make my own stuff, I'll take jobs, I'll work with Jason on some of the stuff that he'll bring in. But I mean, I'm more fascinated about my art and some of the things that are knocking in my head. I do jobs. People, it's awesome to say that, people pay me to do this, but I don't do it like every day in and out. And if you can get those jobs, it's awesome. Do it. Your technique is gonna grow when you're in those type of situations. But
Now,
I'm definitely more laid back, creative, idea flowing.
yeah.
Yeah, I really like taking my time and doing stuff kind of our way.
Now, if this gets too personal, you don't have to answer it, but what's it like in the state of Missouri as far as your health insurance, for example?
Oh shoot, man, you're probably the last person to talk to. I had a full-time job, had health insurance, and now I don't have health insurance. And I'm sitting here, you say those words, and I'm like, I probably should look into that. I mean, I get sick, but I don't. I don't punch walls normally, so I don't break things. I don't. I I um, I mean, I'll be sick for a couple of weeks with sinus infection because the world loves me for that. But I don't know. I just and when you so if you're going to kind of like that job type centric, what you're probably maybe I don't know. I'm guessing here. You know, you go to a business. If you go to like some media center and be an editor, do
Mm-hmm.
that, you'll be taken care of. They'll take care of you, give you a wage, do
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not let you ever be creative outside of that because they'll own you.
Right.
Because a lot of people places, that's something you got to actually realize is like I did actually I was looking into a job I think a year ago about they originally was like, camera guy, videographer, editor. And then they're like, no, you got to be a writer, producer. You got to do everything. And I'm like, it's not really what I want to do.
Yeah.
And they're asking me about writing. And I'm like, I mean, my approach. So if someone said, hey, do a commercial. Okay. I'm not a writer. I'm not going to sit there and try to think of a genius thing. I'm going to go to the owner. I'm going to go to the person that I'm making this thing about and create and develop and grow something creatively with whoever is passionate about this. And then I'll write down stuff. Like I said, I'm more creative in that space. So man, you're probably asking the wrong person.
To make an analogy, I think if you were a musician, you would not be a songwriter, but in the studio you would make it happen. And it's the same thing visually. It's just visual.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I like that. Oh, man, creative space. Gosh, it's daunting, but it's fulfilling when you nail it. Gosh, it's so fulfilling.
So do you make a living just being a cinematographer, or do you have a side job anywhere?
I do enough. I do enough to help out the household. I also right now in the stage of my life, I mostly stay home with my kid, and I'm stay-at-home dad mostly right now. But like I'll do stuff with Jason when he gets jobs, and if I find something, we'll try to collab and see if we can come up with something and do it.
Right.
Gosh, I think I totally forgot where I was going. Oh, living. I'm kind of the person that I don't want to. I've tried to make a business out of it before, and it's not my thing. It's not that I probably couldn't. If I was more business minded, I hate asking people for money, man. Like they're like, "Hey, create this," and I'm like, I kind of just want to do it, but that's just me, That's one of the reasons why, Jason's so awesome, and one of the reasons our relationship has grown is because he knows my worth, and he helps me, reminds me, hey, you're good at what you do. If you're gonna do a job, you deserve this. You got talent, you got skill, you know, and it's just something I never think about. So yeah,
You know,
hopefully that answered a question.
you're not alone there because probably, geez, 25 years ago,
Mhm.
I started my first video business with a partner. We both had worked for the cable company, and we said, let's make a company. And to make a long story short, we had one big project that was funded by, it was a wrestling thing, because of my connections with the wrestling talk show, my show. We did that project, and then no more money came in for further projects from the
Yeah.
same guy as he had promised. And neither one of us knew anything about selling, and we hated selling, and we just
Mhm.
like, that company just went bye-bye, you know.
Yeah.
The second time I was involved with a company, a former student of mine asked me to help her when she was just graduating college, and I helped her get that off the ground, having learned from my own mistakes.
Hmm.
But again, I never got over the thing that you probably hate as well, as asking people for money,
Yeah.
setting a price and all that stuff. That's it's about as far from creativity as you can
It's
get.
intimidating
It is.
because you're not only like in my mind, a creative person's thought process is I'm literally putting a worth on my ability. And if they
Yeah.
turn me down, that's the worth of my ability that someone turned down. Like that's a hard pill to swallow, but
Yeah.
you got to separate yourself, you know, like, and,
Yeah.
and going kind of going back to your students, learn business, try to learn a little bit of business and try to separate yourself a little bit from when it comes to jobs, when it comes to paying jobs and not your personal projects, try to separate yourself, realize you have to take care of yourself. And people, if they're asking you to do something, you know, a video, it's a skill and they can't do it without someone like you unless they're going to learn it and teach it themselves. You know, and then, you know, if they're not going to pay you what you feel like you're worth, that's okay. It's all right. You just keep on going. But actually, because now that I've had time to process some of what you were saying earlier, there is other venues that you can use. One of them that everyone probably already is, especially if you're in high school, you want to be a YouTuber, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I've tried that. It's you still got to have a business mindset. You still got to think you got a product.
Yeah.
You might be the creative director and narrator, and you're going to put your worth in that, which is, you know, of course, going in that circle again. But you gotta dedicate yourself to that. You know, I did. Um, I'm also a gamer. I love games. A lot of, especially games with stories. Like I said, I love the story, visual
Mm-hmm.
stories, and connection and emotions. That's another thing I find extremely passionate. I'm very passionate about. Um, so you know, video games, YouTuber, camera setup, OBS.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got your own studio in your home. That's crazy. You couldn't do that.
That's
You
right.
couldn't do that before. And now, you know, you could spend, I mean, I know this is going to sound a lot of money, but you could spend some money, you know, a couple $100
Mm-hmm.
and really start at the base level and start learning and just creating. And it can turn into something. You got to keep on going at it and finding your, it's finding you almost like your art,
Mm-hmm.
you know, especially if you're going to want to be a YouTuber or be in this creative space. Oh my gosh, there's the things that I could tell you after doing it for 5+ years. I technically did it for 7, but I didn't really do it for the full last 2 years. Um, it's hard, but it's work, and you got to remember it's just like anything else. You got to do it.
Right.
You got to put the work into it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do with this type of techniques and skills.
Be sure to join me next time for part 3 and the final part of my interview with Quintin Huckaby, cinematographer.